Welcome and thanks for tuning in to the O Podcast, also known as the Only Women Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Rosemary Cescolini, your host, a former high school English teacher turned successful entrepreneur in the male-dominated industry of manufacturing. Believe it or not, for over 30 years I've worked at Royal Door Limited, a family-owned and operated business creating custom wood doors for thousands of people across the country. Our products are household names and are featured in blockbuster Hollywood movies, builder and renovation magazines, and HGTV real estate shows. I've also had the pleasure of working with top-notch designers and home reno TV personalities. Now, my new mission, I run O. It's an organization dedicated to uplifting and supporting women in all walks of life. In this podcast, we examine the stories of powerful women who have forged their own path in life and broken all the barriers confronting them. Join me as we uncover the challenges they faced and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we are humbled and extremely privileged to host a fellow coffee lover and my construction twin, the one and only Julie Laughton, designer, general contractor, and CEO of Julie Laughton Design Build and Julie Laughton General Contracting. Julie is passionate about building custom dream homes with timeless designs that match every client's style and needs. She has been in the design business for over 30 years, and Julie and I have been breaking ground and demolishing glass ceilings in both our respective businesses. Julie in design build and me in manufacturing, two monster industries which are predominantly male-led. What I truly admire about Julie is she acts as both a designer and a general contractor, where she personally oversees and executes all facets of the blueprints and builds from conception to completion, while providing her clients with a seamless one-stop shop design build service where all her project needs are met in-house. And that's amazing services. So Julie has completed over 1,000 remodels and custom homes along the affluent coastal communities of Orange and LA County, Laguna Beach, and Newport Beach, as well as significant projects in Beverly Hills, Hollywood, and Pasadena. Her most notable projects include the Mediterranean-style 1928 Wallace Neff home featured in Monster-in-Law, one of my favorite movies, and in fact, I'm lucky I don't have a monster-in-law. I'm blessed with that. And the English Tudor hilltop estate of Disney Imagineer Tony Baxter. Now, that is one heck of a resume. Imagine that. Most of us believe that it's only men who are builders. Hell no, it's just another stereotype, we are going to obliterate with this great interview I'm about to have with Julie Laughton. There's more to Julie than just being an entrepreneur. Believe it or not, she has other time to do other activities despite her incredibly busy schedule. She participates in community philanthropy and trade associations, as well as hosts her very own podcast, Julie Laughton Living. Hello and welcome, Julie, to the O Podcast, all the way from Laguna Beach in the beautiful state of California.
Thank you, Rosemary. I think that's the best introduction anyone ever has given. And what a great monologue there. Wow, it covers everything.
Well, you know what? It's always good to provide a little bit of background information, right? And that way they can follow along with a conversation a little bit more smoothly than wondering, like, who is Julie, right?
Oh, yeah, this is good. Yes, that's a perfect setup.
Okay, I always like to start off with my introduction with my guests is how we actually got to know one another. And one day, I was scrolling along Instagram and I saw a video of you jumping into your pickup truck and going to get some coffee. And it wasn't just a regular coffee run to Orange County's #1 roaster, Moon Goat Coffee, but rather a quick tip of how to build your 5-star custom home using 7 simple steps created by the one and only Julie Laughton. After listening to those tips, I knew Julie knew her shit and I needed to have her come on the show and I wanted to hear all about it. So thanks for answering that call when I DM'd you.
You're very welcome. And I'm glad you noticed the 7 simple steps, because if everyone had followed those steps, life would be so simple and there would be no nightmare remodels. But, you know, not everyone does the one-stop shop like I do. So I'm happy to share it.
And that's great. And you know what? They're going to look you up on your website and they're going to find the steps there. And perhaps they'll save themselves a little bit of grief and some money as well. So just to get started about yourself, I'd like to inform the audience about, a little bit about your educational background and your work history, if you don't mind.
Okay, so I was kind of born an artist. So the story is I literally started drawing when I was 10, 11, 12, and I was doing oil paintings. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be an artist. And then I was also a drummer and played the piano and the bass violin. So I thought maybe I'll just be a musician. So I had all these ideas about my talent because I played in bars at 18 as a drummer for a band.
That's great.
I was doing all this stuff. And then I was also MVP of the golf team in high school 3 out of 4 years and had 2 scholarships to college for golf. So that was an option too. But I quickly realized that I'd starve as an artist and a drummer, and golf takes up too much of my life. So I chose architecture, and because I was mechanically drafting and doing mechanical engineering drafting since I was 14 in 7th grade. So I ended up in architecture. And then college was like, okay, architecture, I don't want to design skyscrapers. I didn't know I wanted to be in residential yet. So then I switched to landscape architecture. And then I switched to interior design and added those 3 together for a design degree. And it's a BA, but I went to college for like 7 years, 6.5 years. And I have a degree in design. So then, but my first job was New York City with 2 architects back to back and then a designer. So I had 7 years professional experience, which makes me professional interior design and licensed there. And it was just not until I moved to California and did that Wallace Neff home and Monster-in-Law that I realized residential was really my passion. But I did the first 7 years professionally, commercially with the largest developers in New York City, doing 40-story high-rise model apartments and their private homes too. So it was fun.
So it seems like you had a very fun youth. You actually were involved in 2 male-dominated activities. Yes. First of all, your golf. Did you have a handicap, by the way, just out of curiosity?
I have a 7 handicap, and then when I was 14, I was archery champion and skeet shooting champion. But archery champion was 14, and my dad taught me how to shoot the shotgun, and I beat all the boys when I was about 17. So he entered me into a contest with all the local farm boys, and I frickin' won, and it was hilarious. He stood right next to me. And, we didn't have a whole lot of training, but I'm also a pool shark. I'm a dead eye.
You're one hell of a lady. I hate to have you on the opposing team.
I played pool with all the football players and the board football players at Iowa State and took their money, because, I learned to play pool before I was 18 and there was nothing to do at Iowa State. You go to a bar and I thought, let me just play some pool and make some money so I can buy more beer.
That sounds like a sound plan. And then your other activity, you were a drummer. Like most bands, you see male drummers. Very infrequent that you see a female leading drums. That's incredible.
It's funny because I picked drums on my own, but my mom was a drummer too in high school. So, and she also piloted her own airplane. So we got that strong woman thing in the family. And my mother raised 12 children. My mother's the oldest at 12, and my grandmother was an icon of strength, and she went to the White House twice and all this stuff she did. So raised her kids, put them all through college, then put herself through college. So there's no stopping what's in my DNA. There's a drive, there's a thing. So that's just part of it. But yeah, my parents didn't, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist or anything, but my parents didn't give us boundaries of you have to be this ladylike housewife mother. They let it open and pushed our careers. So, because I was born in 1962, so it was right after where women really didn't do anything, but my mom made sure that there was no boundaries, and my dad made sure there's no boundaries of what girls can do. My sister played on a boys baseball team. She was home run queen of all the boys, her first time, but this was in high school, so no one gave us any boundaries about what a woman should do. Thank God. So, and we were good at what we did. So.
And I'm so happy you shared that. Those are really, truly inspirational stories. And it sounds like you've come through a lineage of alpha females where like there are no boundaries. You have opportunities. You go out there and you make the best of yourself. And that sounds very encouraging, especially for our young generation that seems to be a little bit shy about pursuing their goals. And, having you here today and expressing, whatever you wanted to do, whether it was archery or golf or playing drums in a band, Julie was a go-getter. She went to get it, and then you spent 6.5 years in college, got all the necessary degrees and certifications, and then you went out and got some experience. So that is one hell of a resume, and I am so happy that you brought that all up. So moving on to your businesses, I would appreciate it if you would describe in detail all the services that your companies provide for your clients. You have your design build and you have your general contracting. So what do you do exactly?
So, well, what I do is I take up the role of the architect, the interior designer, the space planner, the custom kitchen designer. Because after New York City, when I went to finished New York City, I went to California. I also got licensed in handicap and space planning, which is another license in interior design. Then I got certified custom kitchen design. So that's under my belt. So I take the client from conception to completion. So JLDB, which is Julie Laughton Design Build, is architecture, interior design, space planning, custom kitchens, 5 engineers that it takes to build the house, which everybody, if you don't know, you need the structural, civil, soil survey, and the Title 24. So I hire them as part of, and I control them and their timing. And then I submit to the city and get the plans permit ready. And then when the permit's ready, I switch to Julie Laughton General Contractor, JLGC, and I pull the permit and run the job as the project manager and the GC both. I don't have someone else running my jobs. I am making the decisions, which saves time and money for the client. And we're never over budget. We're never over, time, but it's the client, unfortunately, who likes to change their mind, which is called change orders. And every job has them. It's normal. I mean, yes. Clients can't keep up to the pace, and they digest differently. So every job's slightly different because the client, they have how they go through the process, but that's normal.
Yeah. And that's a good point that you brought up, because a lot of home renovation projects, and even industrial and commercial, which I've had a bit of experience in, it's a client that makes changes all of a sudden. Like, if, for example, you're building a home and they decide, well, I want to add a gym, and then, you know what, I want to have a yoga meditation room, as well as a plunge tank and a resistance pool. And you're like, oh, wow, you didn't mention any of that. You just said you wanted a gym, and now you added all these other things. So of course that changes all the scope of the work, and you have to sometimes go back to redo the plans. Correct?
Oh yeah, people don't realize adding one thing is a ripple effect, which it changes everything. Every change order is like a new little mini job, from what we have to demo, what we have to clean, it's just 15-20 items affected on the schedule immediately.
That's a lot of patience on your end. That's all I'm going to say. And
I know I always think of myself as slightly hyper and go fast. And I always joke I have no patience, but I have more patience than any human being on the planet, considering what I do, because we have to let the client digest. And I really am patient. And I've made an art of listening and having patience. So
Julie, as a CEO of the largest female-owned design company in the United States, like, what makes you unique and separates you from your competition? Now, you mentioned a few points that you're patient, you let the clients digest all the situations that are possible, but what other things that makes you, the best at what you're doing?
I think it's truly my ability to give the service and provide this service to the client as one person, because no one else I know physically draws the plans, physically does the space plan and the kitchens, and physically actually is involved in the day-to-day contracting. You have designers who hire contractors, and they say they're one stop, but the guy's making the decisions, that has the insurance and the liability. Then you have architects who draw, but they don't get involved in the construction. They just, they stand side by side. But my commitment to the service to the client, and this is what the trick is, I champion the project for the benefit of the client at the end of the day, not my benefit, not the cost benefit. Well, the cost is them, but not to make me money, but to make the project successful. It's to champion it for them. And I learned that when I was a designer, we had to fight to get other people to cooperate and stay on time and stay on budget and clear up all that communication. So I was always standing in the middle before I was the contractor, helping the client, defending their rights to having a stress-free, on budget, on time project. And I learned that early in the stages about the communication isn't there unless you have someone fighting for you and representing your best interests. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. And that's why I pay everyone, because you control the job with who pays them. So
Yeah, I love that concept, because if you have everything in-house, that way you have better control, and you set up a schedule and you're able to maintain it. So the people that work for you, are they subcontractors, or are they actually directly employed by you?
What makes it different for me also is most contractors don't keep a lot of employees except their office staff. So I have 26 workmen, and we do all the demo, framing, concrete, finished carpentry, window install, and then we do painting and drywall too. But then, so I have 7 trades covered under the construction company that are employees. But then I do sub out the drywall and the painting when we have a lot of jobs, because it's more logical because it gets spread too thin. But my roofer, my sheet metal guy, my stucco guy, my cabinet maker, electrician, plumber, they're all subs. But what makes me different is they're the same subs I've had for 10, 20, and 30 years. My cabinet maker goes back 30 years. I don't switch around people. I keep this team like a family. It's like one big family. Most contractors jump around between subs to get discounts or deals, or they just are so unorganized that the abusive relationship comes to a head and they don't talk to each other by the end of the job. So I do it. I treat my employees and my subs with like kings, because I need my army. I need my loyal army under me.
I like that. That's one thing that has kept also our company going to almost 50 years in business, moving on to the third generation. And that's having the loyalty and teamwork. So I have, on a daily basis, we'll get new suppliers that will contact me and say, hey, listen, you know what? I can do something or provide a service or material at a cheaper rate. Do you want to give me a try? And I honestly tell them, you know what? I'm happy with who I deal with, because I know exactly what the end result is.
Yes.
They make me on time. Like, for example, one of the good things that we do, and why we're so successful with the movie industry, is because they need to set up a set really quickly. And sometimes they need a product within an hour or 2 hours. Well, they call, I need this by noon. You're going to have it on set by noon. So
yes, that's the magic.
That's the magic. So, ABC movie company is going to say, okay, you know what? These guys are really good. Royal Door. I can actually count on them for other things. And then from that, we get other requests like, oh, can you make a window for us? We don't make windows, but because we're in a manufacturing plant, we can accommodate that request so that they get that product as well. So we can always be able to accommodate the customer simply by having that teamwork and also that loyalty of people that are able to be there and provide their skills when we need them the most. And I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's my other little secret weapon, is that if I want something done, it's done immediately. I don't wait for anyone. And I don't like waiting, and I don't use new people. It's a nightmare. And it takes me 6 months to groom a new sub, and the employees get groomed too. So we find out immediately if they're not a good fit. And I have this little thing about my male employees is when I meet them, I see how they shake my hand. And then I know if they're going to be a good fit, because if they shake my hand like they're asking me to dance, it's not going to work. They need to shake my fucking hand firmly.
No, I got to feel my hand being crushed by that male strength. Then I know I got someone that I can actually rely on. I understand that.
Yes. Isn't it funny? It's just the dumbest little things, but it's true.
It is true. And so one point that's been, floating in my head is, how did males, when you first started and you were going to be the boss, the person on the top of the pyramid and everyone below you, how do the males in the industry react to that?
Well, I'm 5'8", and I have a pretty good figure. So here's the girl with the hair and the boobs and the legs, and that's all they saw. I'm sorry, but Yeah, the distraction of, wait a minute, what's this pretty girl? Because in their mind, it's like, wait a minute. But then I had this aura about me that don't fuck with me, or I might, but I have this aura, because I'm all business at work. I really am. But you could see they're curious, like, so I constantly got tested. Does she know what she's talking about? So when I got with other contractors and senior guys that didn't know me, they would run a series of questions to test me and see if I knew the construction lingo, because just so you know, on a job site, like in your job, it's like you're talking Greek. The clients don't know what you're talking about,
That's right.
but you go on all day. And I grew up with my dad and my uncles. My mom had all these brothers babysitting us when we were young. And so the guy language, there's a guy language, shoot the shit guy language, which I immediately got going because I grew up with it. So I fit in immediately, but the first 5 years, because I was young, the young girl, they don't get it. They don't understand, but I was way ahead of them because I had all this experience dealing with men since I was a baby, so I was born to do this, meaning I fit in. Because I didn't present that creepy barrier, whereas, some women show up to the job site in a shirt unbuttoned and a skirt and perfume on. You know what I mean? I never gave that. I never pushed. I always toned that down. So there's a whole magic to it, but I was tested constantly the first 5 years because I was young. I mean, I admit it. There was things I didn't know, but it didn't take long. But I was always accepted because I was a hard worker. And they could see that, and they knew I was going for the best interest for them. I wasn't fucking up their day like some ditzy designer, or something. I was in there trying to make it better for all of us on the construction end. Because the minute I became a GC, I saw the value of time and money.
Yeah. No, those are excellent points. And, you know what, I'm thinking about experience when I first started. Like, I was a teacher going to school, like you said, in a classroom with a skirt, nice blouse and perfume. And then I left the teaching industry profession because the government of the day wanted us to teach some political BS to my kids. And I looked at them as my own children. And I go, I can't stand in front of a classroom and shoot crap to them. And then they graduate and all of a sudden their whole world comes crashing down because, Mrs. Cescolini told us, nonsense. I couldn't do that. So I decided to leave. And then my father-in-law, God rest his soul, said, you know what? The company's growing. Why don't you just join us? And I said, hell no. How am I going to join? I can't even read a tape measure.
He opened the door for you. Isn't that amazing how this happens?
Yes. And it was fate. He said, you know what? As long as you're willing to learn, I will teach you. I'll be your mentor. Okay. And he's a master craftsman. He had incredible patience. And he said, you know what? You have to start on the shop floor because it makes no sense selling a product if you don't understand it, how it's made and the structural integrity of it, the pros and cons and so forth. So I started, and male dominated shop floor. They knew who I was, and it was kind of very uncomfortable. I showed up in safety boots and blue jeans and a t-shirt, just like a regular guy. And you know what? My father-in-law was teaching me, and then he would move me on with other leads in the shop to learn other things. And one thing that they did to really see if I was learning is every time I went to a machine, I would have to check the settings because they would purposely change them.
There you go.
Right? To test me. But I would pick it up and I go, okay, you want to be a wise ass? Sure. Okay, I will test it and get it going and get all the settings right. And then at a certain point after a couple of years, they said, you know what? She knows her shit because I was able to take orders and start them from the beginning and finish them and off they went. So yes, you have to have your experience, your skill, and your credibility. And that's how you're going to overcome the male challenges in these industries, right? And you can't show up, like you said, the ditzy designer who's there, with their iPad and saying, oh, let's do this, let's do that.
Yeah.
And they have no clue, especially when you bring in raw materials. Well, it can work on paper, on computer, but you can't do that with steel. You can't do that with wood.
No, exactly. And that I took their fears away of, is she going to fuck us up or is she going to actually make our life better immediately? Because, I'm also a little bit of a hard charger. So I think they like that too, because I didn't make it more difficult. I made it more efficient. So I went through the exact same thing, and it's normal. I'm moving my location because we're demoing something. Sorry. And but it's normal, that test, because they really don't know, and the men just don't want to be screwed with, is all it is. They just want you to be a team player. That's the secret, you know.
And that's important. You said that as well, because you're messing with their livelihoods. Because if you're putting out a
Yes.
product and all of a sudden you have a damage in your reputation, then all of a sudden you lose client confidence. Then what happens? You go towards a downward spiral where, you start losing sales, and all of a sudden things slow down and people get laid off. And then the bottom line, it affects their livelihoods and families down the road. So that
Oh
is
yeah,
really
no, that's the
important.
worst. I can't, yeah, do that to people.
No, no, no. So we mentioned in the intro, you created 7 simple steps to building a 5-star custom home. Would you mind providing us with a brief description of each step?
Okay, so the first step is actually, before you buy anything, do research, because I have a client in my vast history. I've had clients who buy property that you can't build on because no one told them the scary details of the house and the soil, and I mean the where they're at and what they can and can't do. They just go ahead. Oh, it looks great, ocean view. Let's do this. And then you find out it's sitting on a landslide, or it's sitting on something, and or the coastal commission won't let you do it. So the first thing is, don't buy anything until you actually do the full research. And with houses and land, it means get a soils test and check with your state and local and federal agencies, because you will be stopped, from your dreams if you don't
That's
do
a
your homework.
nightmare. Wow.
And then the next one is, you're going to start your plans. So you need to start your plans with the right people, and interview and make sure they can actually do your project, because some people don't do remodels, some people only do construction. And of course, traditionally, when you start your plans, you have to have an architect normally, and then an interior designer, and then maybe a lighting specialist. So there's 11 people you have to hire at the end of the day to actually do a custom home, including the engineers and the contractor. So it's a litany of people, but they all have to know each other and get along. Because if you're out there running around people that don't know each other, you're in trouble, because you can't force people to like each other or know each other. They have to have a history together. So that's why, being a one-stop shop, all my people know me and I know them, is a golden experience. But a lot of clients are jumping around and finding people they don't know each other. So that's horrible. And then you have then you have the bidding process, where you're going to go through the bidding and, see what your, plans actually cost. But the mistake people make is they don't do that part till after it's submitted to the city. That's dumb. You got to do it. Bring your contractor in early, so if your architect or engineers are pricing out things just because you want it doesn't mean you can afford it, And
Well
then
said.
yeah, you need to bring that contractor in way early to find out what that architect's designing for you, because he might just be pleasing you, but then, oh my God, it's $1 million more, and nobody needs to tell you that. So,
That would be a horrible surprise.
and it happens all the time. It happens, overbuilt, over-designed plans. And then you have your city submittal process, which is keeping up with the planners and the building department and making sure your plans are moved around. But the key to that is for providing plans that actually work and knowing the city, because I have clients that hire architects from LA and they can't get through the city of Laguna Beach. So I got to swoop in and help them, because the architect doesn't know how to work on the local codes and regulations, and designs things that simply don't work. And then they're
It's so
stuck in there for like
important.
5 years,
Yes.
And then you have the most amazing part, which is the build. Now, at this point, your build, when the contractor pulls a permit, you should be done making all your selections. With the mistake most people make is their builder's like,
Critical.
oh, I'll just give you an allowance and you can pick it later. Then you start picking stuff that doesn't fit into the budget or the timeline. That's the nightmare scenario. So in my world, I don't start construction unless they pick all their materials and I have all the lead times and everything's ordered the day I start the demo. So I can line up my schedule and it works. Because if I don't, oh my God, we're going to be delayed. And then the sixth part is, your house is done and they're going to take you through a walkthrough. And this is where you learn how to use your home and learn how to care for it and learn what the warranties are and what your maintenance is. Because if you don't love your home and care for it, it falls apart in 10 years and things happen and leaks happen. Yes. And then the seventh step is lifetime maintenance. You sign up for lifetime maintenance. Don't think you're going to do it because you never do it. Nobody does it. Only a few people. My dad was good at it. For example, there's some men and women that love taking care of their home and caulking and grouting every year, but most people don't. So hire a person, your contractor, of course, to do lifetime maintenance. 3 months, That's 6 smart. Months, 1 year checkups. Love your home. Restore it, not restore it, but take care of it before the problems happen, because you need to maintain it to keep it beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because like you said, a lot of people don't consider it. Like, they got a new home, oh, look how beautiful it is. But depending in what part of the country you are, if you have the seasons and
the seasons,
the extremities and heat and the cold, you definitely have to upkeep your home, because like you said, you're going to start having leaks and cracks and water, and then it becomes a bigger issue. So that is so important. I love those steps. And
water's not your friend. Water's not your friend. That's the biggest cost problem of all home damage is water.
I know. I don't even want to talk about that. I might share just a brief story. Years ago, when we were newlyweds, my husband and I, we took our little boys to Sunday lunch at my parents', and locked up the house, drove over to my parents for a few hours, came home, and a pipe had burst in our ensuite, and the water had come down to the second floor. And I kid you not, within a few hours, we had thousands of dollars of damage. And I'm like, oh. And it was because it was a defective pipe. So fortunately, but we couldn't see it. It was hidden, and we didn't construct the house either. But fortunately, we had home insurance, and they replaced everything. But nice. Now that we go anywhere for more than, say, half a day, I just turn off the water because I got such a bad experience.
That's funny. You're paranoid because that's scary. And you know what? It's just once, dog bites once, it's dog's fault. Dog bites twice, your fault. Yeah, because you never know. Especially since you didn't build the home.
But it was a freak accident, right? Like, how do you know that this pipe would have been, manufactured incorrectly, and it could have led to it? And just a few hours of water gushing out, it was a lot of damage. So
I know how that goes.
I don't want to go through that again. So always dedicated to helping women become successful in alternative careers such as construction, mining, manufacturing, along with entrepreneurship. So from your vast experiences, both as a career woman and entrepreneur in male-dominated industries, what job opportunities exist for women in general?
Well, the thing is, the job opportunity is at the very least, there's trade schools and the shop classes are out of the high schools now, but there's trades you can actually learn. There's nothing wrong with doing a trade. Hey, work in the steel business. Geez, metal fabrication and welder. My God, you make a grip, and learn to drive a crane. There's things like that. But what I always recommend women do, just like you and I did, do project management and learn how it works under someone. And then you can be a senior project manager. And if you're an architect or you're a designer, learn the construction. Don't just stand side by side. Actually learn it and maybe get your contractor's license, because you're already in it. But if you're not in it and you want to get a job, just be a project manager and start with project management for a construction company, residential or commercial. And then you'll learn everything we do.
That's amazing advice. I like that. So you actually do build effective teams, and you have inspiring leadership, as we mentioned earlier. So could you share just your approach for cultivating that leadership and equipping aspiring female entrepreneurs with the necessary tools for success in alternative industries?
Well, the necessary tool is to know what you're doing and do your homework, and then get your experience under your belt. So because our business doesn't necessarily require education or formal education, but there are construction management courses. But the thing is to get under someone and do your apprenticeship and know what you're doing. But the biggest secrets for me is learn to listen and then treat people with respect. Because if you automatically do that, then the circle of life works, because you can't get through it if you're not listening and you're not. And the third one is know yourself, know your limitations. Actually, know yourself. Do some therapy. Do some self-help recognition and recognize your weaknesses. I have weaknesses. I know me. I know Julie, and I know what doesn't work, and I know which people I can't work with and which things I can't do. So you got to, listen, follow and learn and know yourself. Don't lie to yourself, and don't try to be someone you're not, because your true talents are what's going to make you successful. If you can just recognize them and don't fake it, just recognize your talents, and then you'll fly. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent advice. So, if you were able to go back to your youthful years in your 20s, would you select the same path that you selected now?
And I would, because I started with architecture because I want to design things and build things, but I never realized I'd actually become the contractor. I just knew I wanted to design things that could be built to make people's lives better, because space planning is how humans function in their home and their office. It's all about making that better. So that was the core of my education, is designing things that work with the planet and the human in it, the dwelling. So that's the core of it,
I like that. I like that very much. So always all about fostering collaboration and community among women. And you've been actively involved in various community organizations and initiatives, such as the Laguna Beach Boys and Girls Club, Laguna Beach Food Pantry, Orange County Philanthropy Day, just to name a few, and the list goes on. So how do you see community engagement as an essential part of your company's mission?
Well, it shows that I give back and I participate. I'm actually participating. I'm also on the board of directors for the Laguna Beach Chamber of Commerce, and I participate in what's happening with people. And so my participation and my giving back, because, life is about giving back. It's another little thing, whether it's money or your time, you should be giving back somehow, because the more you teach the ones below you, or around you, that meaning people that haven't reached your success, you help them be successful. So just the fact that I do what I do shows people it's possible, and your dreams can come true too. But you have to forge the path. You have to show them how it's done, because some people don't know the first thing about being successful, and it really is know yourself and give back and treat people right. Geez, and then you'll kill it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of negative stuff is out there on social media, and it's basically they see entrepreneurs as, greedy. They only think of themselves and the benefits of themselves. But you touched upon a lot of important things like giving back. If you were able to get to a certain level in your life, and obviously you are grateful for who you are and what you've become. And that's something that is a calling for all of us. And that's one reason why I started the podcast. I'm blessed to have the life I've led. And I wanted to share, the stories of myself and women like yourself, and telling people that, yes, we do have a lot of responsibilities. But along with those responsibilities, we're also human, and we want to see the whole planet a better place, and we want to see others succeed. There's really no secret to success, because anytime you go out there and you genuinely want to try something, all you have to do is hit someone up on social media and say, hey, I see that you're an expert in design build and general contracting. Julie, can you give me some advice? And I'm pretty sure that you would respond and maybe even mentor that person pro bono.
Yeah, I always give advice. I'm happy to give advice. And I always have people constantly asking me if I can hire their kids and teach them. And yeah.
And that's amazing way of giving back. And I want to make sure that point gets registered by our audience, that we're here basically to serve other women because of our vast experience and actually, our hard work that got us to this point.
It's not easy. It's not easy, ladies.
Well, that's true too.
life is not easy.
Yeah, well, it didn't fall on your lap. Okay, well, I'm Julie Lawton. I'm going to have things come into my life simply by snapping my fingers. No, you worked really hard, and you're still working hard. It's not that you stopped. I'm assuming you probably got to a certain level in your life where you could slow down if you really wanted to, but why
Not
would
yet,
you?
but not yet. But what I did at 60 years old, I finally hired help, project managers. I was doing it by myself for
Yeah.
too many years because I do it faster and more efficient. And I still had quality of life, but now I want to grow the business a little more. So now I
Mhm.
have 3 project managers under me, and that was a nice shift. But I'm still working 60 hours a week.
And that's true. Entrepreneurs don't have 9 to 5 jobs.
Uh-uh.
You keep going until you get that task done. And like you
Yes.
said, you're your customer. You got to make sure that they're happy, and you actually build that dream home that they're envisioning. And that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yes, it is. And I love it though. But the thing is, I like it. I like doing it. I like helping people.
And it's so do I. So one thing I liked reading about you is I was reading an article in Forbes that you have recently been appointed by the United Nations Association Orange County chapter as its ambassador of affordable housing. Affordable housing is becoming a crisis in North America. So I'm glad that you are the ambassador. And what impact do you hope to achieve with this position in the coming years?
Well, I think the awareness is the big thing because when you talk to people about affordable housing, they think you're going to put some low rent stuff in high rent neighborhoods, or you're going to give people cheaper rent than other people. That's not what it is. So affordable housing is fitting it into the new housing. Normally it's like condos and apartments and not
Hmm.
so much new homes, but there is the tiny home concept. But it's really the awareness of what does it mean and who are these people that can afford these affordable housing.
Right.
It's not like we're setting up the projects and people that are potentially being supported by the government. It's people like the busboy, the waiter, the barista, the school teacher, and everybody in that income level is what we're supporting, so they don't have to drive 2 hours to get to work.
Hmm.
So that's what it's. So the number one is awareness. So I'm meeting with all the mayors of the local cities,
Okay.
and then coming up with a team to just continue the awareness and get it to the forefront of what it means, and then follow the legislation and what's happening, because there's a trick to getting affordable housing built, and the government gives tax credit. So it just really starts with awareness right now.
Well, it's great. I'm glad you took on that initiative because as we get more people coming into the country and they're struggling to get their lives settled, because if you look at the immigrants that came at the turn of the century, there was so much possibilities and opportunities, and you had a better chance of pursuing the American dream. But just talking with the youth these days, I'm just finding that a lot of them they don't have that shine, that passion that earlier generations had, and
Mhm.
I think they just feel like whatever they're trying to do, they'll never get to that home ownership, that great job, and that's kind of concerning because that really shows that perhaps this has to be very taken seriously, and we
It
need to
does.
focus on our youth because they are our future.
Yep. And everybody should be able to own a home, in their after college. I mean, they don't shouldn't have to wait.
Hmm.
So
Oh, precisely, 100%. So, looking ahead, what legacy do you want to leave behind, both in terms of your career and your contributions to your community?
Well, it's really the legacy is women can do it, but there's no boundaries. Men or women, it's what you think and what you project is is going to happen. So careful what you wish for, but anything's possible. I mean, the whole American dream, it's possible. My thing is, there are no boundaries. Don't let your own head stop you and your fears stop you, because that's really what is at the core of it. And if you want something, get to know yourself first, and then know what you're good at, and then go for it. But my grandmother, way back when, my mom, we were constantly making lists, setting goals. I learned to make lists, set goals, and project at a very young age, because you are in charge of your destiny, no one else. And God forbid, don't become a victim. It's you and your decisions you make every single day, and you're in charge, and anything's possible. That's my legacy. And of course, for women in a male dominated world, there are no barriers. It's just get out there and do it, and get it in the dirt and do it.
Amen. Well said to that. I can't add any other points. I love it. Just go do it. And like Nike says it, just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Show up. Show up is the thing. Get out of bed and show up, and you will learn, because I had to learn just like you. We had to learn.
We all did, right?
Mhm.
Actually, this was more fun than learning in a classroom, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Going and doing hands-on stuff and asking questions and creating. That, I think, was the highlight of my career. I would think in the morning, so what am I going to make today? So, and every day was different. So that was just incredible. All the happy memories through that. So, speaking of happy memories or a memorable moment, can you share one of them or of an experience from your philanthropic work that left maybe a lasting impression with you?
Well, my giving back, I was trying to think about where there was more women involved in my giving back to the youth. So, I've given back a lot to people, that little tiny things that make their life better, but the big thing is to be available and, possibly financially help a situation is probably the biggest one, because it's just that little tiny bit that pushes, allows somebody to actually do something that makes their life better. So it's kind of my biggest legacy and my biggest thing is I actually have done it and proven it can be done. And people see that I've set the example. So the example is there. So that's actually driving a lot of people to take that leap, because they see I've already done it. And so just being present and chugging along, that's really the benefit, because girls see, oh, she did it, I can do it.
Absolutely. So Julie, you began a podcast called the Julie Laughton Living. What inspired you to host your own show, and how does this platform contribute to your passion for supporting women in construction?
Well, it's basically telling my story of how I did it, and first of all, explaining my craft and what I do, so they know that a one-stop shop is more beneficial. But it's really telling those stories and what I go through every day. And I'll probably start telling a little more stories about what I actually went through, because right now I'm just kind of getting people to know me and what I've done and what I've accomplished, because the one-stop shop is a big deal. And being the only female doing this is a big deal. So the reason I started is so other women can see that it's real, it's me, and I talk about it. I mean, I share my story.
Yeah, it's possible. And that is so important to be out there, especially on social media. It's sending some positive information out there, because, when you're looking at social media, you turn on the news, everything is doom and gloom. But then you turn on to, say, Julie Laughton Living or the O podcast, and you've got inspirational women, and it's kind of like a highlight of the positive things that can be. And it's really good that you're doing that for the younger generation.
Yes, and that's just setting the example, being there and being available.
Of course. One thing I like to do is read, and you have to continuously learn new ths, and a lot of us don't read. So I'm encouraging our audience, our community, to start reading rather than sitting in front of a TV and watching a mindless show. So what books could you recommend that would be good reads for our audience?
Well, my thing is, I like, I'm kind of a geek. I like nonfiction.
And that's okay too.
I like books about, how our minds work, how our bodies work. I like that whole self-help angle, learning about yourself more. I like that. But if I'm, but the other books I like my mom, we like the murder mysteries, the crime detective stories, because that talks about the human nature and the psychology of a human, anything that, takes you down this rabbit hole of, distraction. So I'm a big fan of, the Patterson, for example, James Patterson. I mean, because I like the escapism
sure.
of a good book and a good movie, because to get my mind to shut up at night, I'm guilty of sitting in front of the TV for 2 hours to zone out because it's easier.
Well, if you have an action-packed day like you or me, sometimes you need to watch, as they call, mindless television.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm completely drained some nights, where it's hard for me to read after a long day's work. So I try to get it in during the day. Like if I got 10 minutes, I'm sitting at lunch, I'll just do a quick
That's
10
when I do it.
pages.
I do it during the day when I'm
Yeah.
eating lunch or when I'm available, and I'll read news stories. I'll get caught up. I like to get caught up, and just really start with information and get caught up. Yeah.
Well, that's how I found your article on Forbes. I got caught up, right? Or else I would have been right. I would have missed it completely. So it is important to, feed your mind with good, positive things. So Julie, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Your journey perfectly encapsulates what O stands for. Any final thoughts or advice you'd like to leave our community with?
I think the thing is, love yourself first, get out there and do it. And to get that, don't worry so much, because there is a lot of doom and gloom out there. Trust me, your mindset is what, just like an athlete, your mindset is what makes it work. Start with your mindset, take care of yourself, take care of your body. Don't self-sabotage yourself. Eat
that's
right,
great
get your
advice.
sleep.
Yes.
Eat right, get your sleep.
All important to get you functioning to optimum level. So for our listeners who want to connect and learn more about you, your work, podcast, or maybe they want to hire you to build their dream home, so where can they go, Julie, to find you?
You just go to my website, julielaughton.com. It's very simple. And my last name is probably on the screen. So Laughton, but everything's there.
Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. And if you enjoyed our conversation with Julie, please be sure to share it so that others can learn important information that can help them in their career journeys or entrepreneurial paths. I would appreciate it if you can also reach out to me with your feedback on Instagram so we can better serve our community of listeners. If you'd like to take the next step in your career, visit us at onlywomenentrepreneurs.com and book your free consultation with me, where I can personally provide you with the support, guidance, and resources you need towards a successful path. For businesses who are struggling to gain or retain skilled individuals, send me a message and I'll be happy to help you out with this. Follow us on all social media at Only Women Entrepreneurs to stay up to date on all things O and to connect with a growing community of countless women living their best lives possible. We look forward to welcome you in our next podcast. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Rosemary. Let's do this again.